Title: The Orphan's Rise. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between rolling hills, there lived a boy named Aidan. His parents had passed away when he was just a baby, and he was taken in by his father's second wife, a woman named Evelyn. Evelyn was cold-hearted and stern, and though she didn't treat Aidan with cruelty, she showed him no warmth, no affection. She had 2 children of her own, a son named James and a daughter named Clara. Both were spoiled, demanding, and often made Aidan feel like a stranger in his own home. Every morning, Evelyn would call Aidan to the kitchen, where he was expected to do all the chores. He swept, cleaned, fetched water from the well, and did everything she asked, but no matter how hard he tried, he never seemed to earn her approval. If the kitchen wasn't spotless enough, she would scold him. If the firewood wasn't stacked neatly, she would sigh in frustration. "Why can't you be more like James? Or Clara?" Evelyn would say with a dismissive wave. James would roll his eyes, and Clara would smirk, both of them watching Aidan struggle to meet their impossible expectations. Aidan never complained. He was determined to make his stepmother happy. But no matter how hard he worked, no matter how much he did for them, the praise was always scarce. His heart sank every time Evelyn glanced at him with indifference. James and Clara, meanwhile, made it their mission to make Aidan's life as difficult as possible. They would mock him for his simple clothes, call him the orphan when they wanted to hurt him, and leave their chores for him to do. They found great amusement in his misfortune, and their laughter echoed through the halls as Aidan silently bore the burden of their cruelty. Yet, through all the hardship, Aidan never lost hope. He believed that someday, somehow, his efforts would be rewarded. He worked harder and harder, learning the ways of the farm, fixing tools, mending fences, and doing everything within his power to show that he could be worthy of love. But still, the days passed, and his stepmother remained unsatisfied. One summer evening, when Aidan was no older than 16, a terrible storm swept through the village. The winds howled and the rain poured in torrents. The barn roof was blown off, and the fields were flooded. Evelyn, James, and Clara took refuge inside, while Aidan worked tirelessly through the storm, securing the barn, saving what he could, and making sure the animals were safe. When the storm passed, the damage was apparent. Aidan, drenched and exhausted, stood in the middle of the wreckage, trying to assess the situation. Evelyn looked out the window, and for the first time, her gaze softened. "You did all this, on your own?" she asked, though it wasn't a question, it was more of a realization. Aidan nodded, his heart heavy. He had done it because no one else would. He had done it for the family, even though they had never shown him kindness in return. The next few years were the hardest of his life. With the farm struggling from the damage of the storm, Aidan took it upon himself to find work elsewhere. He became an apprentice to a blacksmith in a neighboring village. His work ethic, his humility, and his relentless dedication earned him the respect of the townspeople. Over the years, he honed his skills, and as he grew older, he became one of the finest blacksmiths in the region. Years passed, and Aidan's name became well known. He built a reputation not only for his craftsmanship but for his kindness and generosity. He used the wealth he earned to purchase land, expand his business, and even help other orphans, giving them a chance at the life he had never had. He became a symbol of success and perseverance, a story of triumph against all odds. One cold winter's evening, Aidan received a letter from his old home. It was from Evelyn, his stepmother. The letter was humble, a far cry from her usual cold demeanor. She wrote that the farm had fallen into disrepair, and James and Clara had squandered their inheritance. They were now struggling to survive, and they needed his help. When Aidan read the letter, he was filled with a mixture of emotions. He had spent years resenting them, yet something inside him stirred. He thought about all the years he had worked to earn their approval, the endless hours of labor, and the way they had turned their backs on him. Yet, despite it all, he had succeeded. and now they needed him. Aidan made his decision. He returned to the village, not as the orphan boy they had known, but as a prosperous and respected man. When he arrived, Evelyn, James, and Clara were waiting for him. They looked older, worn, and humbled by their hardships. "Please, Aidan," Evelyn said, her voice cracking. "We need your help. We have nothing left. Can you help us?" Aidan looked at his stepmother, then at James and Clara, who stood with heads bowed, unable to meet his gaze. "You want me to feed you now?" Aidan asked, his voice calm, but with a hint of bitterness. "After everything that happened, after how you treated me?" Evelyn nodded, tears in her eyes. "I know we failed you. But we're desperate. We need you." Aidan took a deep breath and looked around. He thought about the years of hardship, the times he had wished for a family that cared for him, and how he had managed to rise above it all. He realized that, despite everything, he was the better person now. He had achieved everything he owned with the help of God, not because of their help, but in spite of them. "I will help you," he said, his voice steady. "But not because I owe you anything. I will help because I've learned that holding on to bitterness doesn't bring peace. I'll help because I've come to understand what truly matters, compassion, not pride." Aidan used his wealth and resources to rebuild the farm, turning it into a thriving business once again. He didn't just give them handouts. He taught them how to work, how to manage, how to survive on their own. Slowly, James and Clara began to change. They learned the value of hard work and respect, and over time, the family began to mend. In the end, Aidan became the head of the family, but not out of obligation, out of love. He had never sought their approval, but now, he had their respect. And in that respect he found a sense of peace that had eluded him for so many years. Aidan's story spread far and wide, a tale of resilience, forgiveness, and the quiet strength that comes from enduring hardship with grace. He had proven that no matter the trials, no matter the cruelty of others, the heart that never gives up will always find its way to success. And sometimes, that success isn't just about wealth, it's about healing the wounds of the past and offering a hand to those who once hurt you. And so, Aidan, the orphan boy, became the man who changed the lives of those who had once cast him aside.